Can someone please explain to me how it is already February? I just celebrated New Year's, and you're telling me it's already almost Valentine's Day. Time is scary, man. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and today we're going to be doing my January wrap up. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this month. I feel like I started the month out really strong, and I also ended it strong. Actually, the whole month was great. Don't get me wrong, the entire month was great. My only thing is I feel like I had such a wide range of ratings for the books that I read. It's just really strange to me that I had some like really highs and I had some really lows, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting pickier with my ratings. That might be the case. I think my reading taste has definitely matured or just changed slightly in the past couple of years, or at least this past year. Reflecting back on this month, it's kind of wild looking at the ratings of the books that I read. I ended up reading 10 books. I had 1 audiobook, 9 physical books, for a total of 10 books this month. I'm really excited to talk about some of these titles because some of them were highly anticipated reads. Some of them were books that I didn't expect to read in the month of January and ended up loving. Some were books that were on my TBR list for this season and just did not live up to my expectations, unfortunately. There was just a very wide range. I'm really excited to start talking about them. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First book of the new year was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This book I ended up giving 5 stars. That's right, the first book I read in 2025 was a 5-star, which was so incredibly exciting for me. I loved it. I have to say, when I started reading this book, I knew it was highly talked about on Book Talk. I knew it was very hyped up, and I wanted to be a part of that conversation, and that is why I bought it and read it when I did. Going into it, I hoped that it would at least be a 4-star read. Ended up being a 5, which I'm not complaining about. Basically, in this world, it is a fantasy world. Our main character, she's a human. She lives in this kingdom that is basically in the desert. It's kind of interesting because water, like you have water rations and like people trade for water, and she's in this district in her kingdom that is very poor. People are constantly dying just because they do not have the money or the funds to buy more water rations. She, however, is a very strong female main character. She's kind of like Robin Hood. She steals from the rich and gives to the poor, which I really, really loved about her character. Starts right off the bat with her stealing from a palace guard, and her attitude and sass immediately made me want to keep reading this book. She just had the best attitude and personality. She was so funny, and it felt like she didn't take life too seriously. I mean, considering how dangerous her world is. I also loved seeing her relationship with her brother. I wish we got more of that. I think we'll get more in book 2, which I'm looking forward to. She ends up getting arrested for stealing from the crown. The queen basically tells her, like, you are the last of your kind, like you're part fae, I'm getting rid of you. There's no fae in this world. It's called Quicksilver because there is these pools of Quicksilver. It basically looks like melted silver. Something in her blood kind of calls to the Quicksilver, and she creates a portal or a doorway in the Quicksilver, and this Fae warrior comes out and basically saves her and brings her to his kingdom in the Fae world. So this Quicksilver, these are portals to different like dimensions essentially, and she gets brought to this Fae kingdom, and they are trying to reawaken the Quicksilver so that way they can travel and export goods. And it's just her journey of figuring out how to control the Quicksilver, how to survive in this Fae world when she is practically human, while also trying not to fall head over heels for this Fae warrior who saved her. I loved this book. It felt very bingeable. Kind of gave me the same vibes of when I read When the Moon Hatched, the way I was immersed in the story. And I'm really, really excited for book 2. I'm not sure. I know it comes out sometime this year. Next, I read an arc for Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This book actually is out now. It came out in, I think, the 2nd week of January. I really like this author's writing because she does a really good job with like kind of psychological thrillers and a really good twist most of the time towards the end. And so I was really excited going into this book. This world follows our main character who is on the phone with his wife when she's driving home from the grocery store, and all of a sudden she says, oh, there's a woman in the road, I need to help her. And he's like, no, stay in your car, stay in your car. And she's like, no, I need to help, and gets out and then is never seen again. His wife goes missing. Milo wants to say hi. He's trying to climb my leg. Isn't he getting so big? They have doubled in size and it makes me so incredibly sad because I want them to stay kittens forever. Our main character, his wife goes missing and he just kind of has to grieve for her. He's actually a writer and his publisher comes up with this idea for him to go to this very private island. There's a very small community that lives on this island and basically she tells him to go there and write. He decides to go because he's still grieving his wife and he's in a bit of a writer's block. When he gets there, he sees a woman who looks exactly like his wife. His whole time while he's on this island, he's searching for this woman. He's trying to figure out what actually happened to his wife, while at the same time, things are kind of happening on this island that are making him feel like he's slowly going insane. I was really excited about this book. However, by the end, the way everything was wrapped up, all of the explanations for the things that were happening during the story, I didn't love it. I was actually kind of disappointed with how it ended. It was almost too unbelievable, too unrealistic. It just felt very rushed. It was predictable, but at the same time, it was just, what? There were some twists along the way that I wasn't expecting that I did appreciate and enjoy because you're getting alternate timelines, alternate perspectives, and the way that was explained was really cool. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was just kind of meh. I still would recommend it to people because I do think it had the typical Alice Feeney flair, but I just wasn't in love with the ending. I needed it to be a little bit more realistic, I think, for me to have really been invested in what was going on with our character. Next up, we have The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. This is the author of Daughter of the Pirate King, which I read this past summer, and I actually loved that book. I really loved her writing style. Our main character, it's kind of like Bridgerton. It's Regency vibes, and she's trying to woo the king and basically seduce him and kill him. I wasn't in love with this book. It was fast-paced. I was able to get through the story really quickly, but it didn't feel like a fantasy world. It was like our king, he could control shadows, so ooh, shadow daddy. But that was literally it. No one else in this kingdom had magic or anything close to it, and it kind of felt like our main character, she was just wanting to kill him for no reason. Like, she didn't really have a reason for wanting to get rid of him, and I was just really confused the whole time. I felt like there wasn't a lot of depth in our 2 main characters. It didn't really feel like you got to know them a whole lot, and they also weren't together a whole lot in the book. So I don't know how it goes from I'm gonna kill you, I hate you, to I want to marry you. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Actually, now that I'm thinking on it, I probably would lower it to 2.5 stars. It just didn't give me what I wanted or what I was expecting out of it. Next, we have The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This was a surprise read for me. I actually listened to this as an audiobook, but then I bought the physical copy because I needed to read this book and see how it was formatted. It basically follows 2 elite figure skaters and their rise to the top, and the whole time it's alluding to this big scandal and you're trying to figure out like what is happening. It kind of felt like a documentary. You're getting like interviews of people who were around the couple or people who knew them, friends with them, family members, everything. The whole time you're like, what is this big scandal? What happened to them that made them crash and burn, essentially? I just really enjoyed it. I actually gave this book 5 stars. So I had a second 5-star read in the month of January, which was very unexpected. I didn't expect to love The Favorites as much as I did. Audiobook I found also was a full cast, like all the voices were different people, and I loved it. It was so incredibly good. It kind of felt like listening to a documentary or a podcast, and it really helped me immerse myself in this world. I also found out that I actually love reading about elite competitive athletes, and I wasn't expecting that. I think I want to read more books about competitive athletes and pro athletes because I really loved reading about the training that's involved and the grit and the determination that goes into the training of being a pro athlete. And I really loved it, and I highly recommend this story. Next, I read The Darkness Within Us, which is the second book. It's a duology after The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. I went into this one with very low expectations. I did not think I was gonna like it like at all. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I actually liked it a lot more than the first book. It follows our main character from the first book's sister. She ended up getting married off to this really old man, and basically you find out that she's actually like a mastermind. Like, she kind of created this situation for herself, so that way as soon as he was gone, then she has run of his estate. She has the run of everything, and she doesn't have to ever get married again. I loved how funny and strong she was. I loved her even more than her sister, and I really loved seeing her story. It was definitely enemies to lovers. This grandson of the man who she married shows up, and she never knew that he had an heir or had any living relatives, and he's basically trying to take her estate from her. So it was just really fun. I was invested. I flew through this book because I just loved their banter. You could see how they had that chemistry, not just the attraction, but the chemistry that was needed. Next up, we have Good Boy by Elle Kennedy and Serena Bowen. This is a hockey romance, which I went into it really excited because I haven't read Elle Kennedy in a while. I really loved her off-campus series. So I was really interested to see how her writing differed in this book, especially since she co-wrote with another author. It talks about like the maid of honor and best man at a wedding, like her brother's getting married to his teammate, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be really cute and fun. The way I almost threw up while reading this book, how cringy our main characters were with each other. Just no. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. It was still very easy to read in typical Elle Kennedy fashion. I really liked the side characters, but our main characters were just, they gave me the ick so bad. At least our main guy character did. He was like sending our main girl dick pics before they were even doing anything. His nickname for her was J-Babe. Her name's Jess. I mean, there's some nicknames I can't get by. Also, he just kept forcing her to call herself his girlfriend. Like, he wanted her to be his girlfriend so bad. He just basically made the decision for her. I just was not about it. I didn't love their story. I didn't really feel like much of anything. Now that I think about it, I would probably lower it to 2 stars because now that I'm reflecting on it, I don't even think it's worth 2.5. Would not recommend this book just because of how cringy. I wish I remembered how cringy some of the lines were, some of the quotes were. Next, I read The Close-Up by Pip Drysdale. I think that's her last name. This is a mystery thriller, and I was really interested in this book mainly because it follows a writer who, she's having writer's block, but she ends up going on a few dates with this like high-end movie star actor dude who's like super famous. So think like Chris Hemsworth. Her name kind of gets plastered through social media, through the internet. The movie star's stalker decides to start stalking her. She wrote a book about a stalker, and this stalker decides to start recreating things that happened to her character, her protagonist, and her story to her. I was really interested in this. I thought that this would be really, really cool. And gotta say, didn't love it. I gave it 2.5 stars. I felt like it was boring for the most part. Not a lot of stuff happened. And then when things did happen, they didn't make sense. Like it didn't flow. It didn't go the way I thought it would. Also, I just wasn't rooting for anybody. I wasn't rooting for the main character. I wasn't rooting for the movie star boyfriend. I wasn't rooting for anybody in the story. So it was really hard for me to feel invested. Then I read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This has been on my list. This was on my 25 books for 2025. And I'm really excited that I finally was able to read it. I've read The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang and I enjoyed it. It was a very dense world. Definitely as soon as I finished it, I had to put it down and go touch grass. Like, it's talking about war and all the things that come with it. And it was just very, very dense is the best way I can describe it. I know R.F. Kuang, her writing, everyone raves about it. I've heard so many people rave about Yellowface and the conversations you can have about Yellowface and the stance she kind of has and the perspective she has on the publishing industry. I thought was just very fascinating. Our main character, she is a writer, and one of her close friends, who's also a writer, ends up dying in front of her, and she steals her manuscript and sells it as her own. And it goes into this whole conversation just about the publishing industry and how they market certain authors and books. The world was fascinating. I truly felt like you're just following along as she just makes one bad decision after another. She's a very unlikable character, but I feel like R.F. Kuang did a good enough job with helping me to at least understand and have empathy for our main character. I thought I was gonna hate her the entire time, but watching her slowly do one bad thing after the other, I was able to have some understanding at least on how she got to where she was. I ended up rating this book 4 stars. I would definitely recommend it to people, mainly just because of the conversations that you would have about it and just the different topics and themes that were running throughout the story. I think are just really good book talk discussions. Then I read Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. This is a Cleopatra and Antony retelling. Chloe Gong does a great job with Shakespearean plays and doing like her own little fantasy spin on them. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. The Kingdom puts on this tournament where I think it's like 100 people are allowed to enter, and it's basically a fight to the death. But what's unique about this world is people can body jump, so you can take your soul basically and jump into another person's body if you're strong enough. Killing a person isn't enough because they can jump to a different body, so it makes it a little like the stakes were a little bit higher throughout our world. Our main character, she's actually the exiled princess of this kingdom. She actually murdered the old king and queen, her parents, and got exiled, and she's coming back to kind of get her final revenge on her uncle who has taken over this kingdom. And so you're following along with her as she is going through this tournament, because whoever the victor is gets to basically shake hands with the king, and that would be her only opportunity to get close enough to her uncle. While at the same time, there's another character named Anton who's also in these games for his own motives. because he's trying to win this prize money for someone he loves, and you get to see them kind of team up and try to stick it out throughout this whole tournament. And I really, really enjoyed watching them work together. The way it ended, it definitely showed that there's more to this world than what you saw in the first book. And the final book that I read in January was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I still don't have a rating for Onyx Storm. I will say I enjoyed my time reading it. I definitely took my time while I was reading it. I thought I was going to binge it right away when I got it, but I actually took a few days. I took probably 5 days to read the book, mainly because I knew in typical Rebecca Yarros fashion that she was going to probably end in a cliffhanger. And I've heard in interviews that she hasn't even started the 4th book, and I knew I was going to be just emotionally wrecked after reading Onyx Storm, which I was, but also not to the extent I thought I was going to be. I feel like there were a lot of plot holes, a lot of things that like you didn't see the full action of. I don't know. I feel like it was missing a lot of things. Like the book could have been longer. I truly think it could have had another 100 pages, and it probably would have helped because there was a lot I feel like that was missing in the book. The ending, don't even get me started on the ending. I'm so angry. I'm so angry, and it's not even because it was a cliffhanger. I'm angry because it felt like the last few chapters I was reading a completely different book. It didn't feel like it fit what was happening. It didn't mesh well, I guess I should say. It didn't flow with the pacing that she had going on. I do think that she fixed a lot of the pacing issues she had from Iron Flame. I was never bored while I was reading Onyx Storm. I still enjoyed it, and I enjoyed getting more side character interactions and getting to know more characters. And I also really loved Xaden and Violet's relationship in this one. It was very healthy. Like they fixed all of those miscommunication issues that they had in Iron Flame, and I feel like they finally were acting like a couple. And I really, really enjoyed that about this book. So there were pros and there were cons. I haven't settled on a rating yet. I think I'll probably land on a 4-star, but I'm still thinking on it. It wasn't a 5. I still love this world, and I want to continue this series whenever she decides to grace us with the 4th book. But yeah, I just have a lot of mixed feelings on Onyx Storm. And those were the 10 books that I read in the month of January. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was fun for you to see what I've been up to in the new year. I have a lot of really fun reading vlogs that are going to be coming up soon, because I know I've not really done a whole lot of reading vlogs recently, just with getting started with the new year, getting reset on a lot of stuff. But I'm very, very excited for the month of February. I have a lot of fun books planned and a lot of fun videos planned, and I'm really, really excited to take you guys along with me. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.